Okay, so this is going to be a couple of videos, but let me just start out first of all and say I decided to create my own little. I ain't gonna tell y'all what I started it as because you'll laugh and it's okay if you laugh, but I don't want to tell you. But then my grandson picked it up and he's like, "Grandma, that don't look like blank what you were planning on doing." And I said, "No, it don't, does it?" And he said, "It kind of looks like one of those those voodoo dolls." And I said, I thought, well, it does. So I got a second opinion. I asked my husband, and he was like, it does kind of look like one. So, well, just in case, plan B, in case, you know, everything that, y'all, I know she's not going to change. But I do want the truth out there, whether she changes or not. But just as jokingly, I've decided to turn that into my Adrastea doll. And if all else fails, well, I got some those little push pins or whatever you call them. We just have to test it out, or maybe I'll just read scripture to her and see. Maybe I have to put some ears on it because don't have any and it can't hear. So I might have to do that. But anyway, that's just Plan B. But in the meantime, I thought it would cheer me up sometimes. Okay, let me get started on this. Let's go back to before my mom died. Okay, my mom and her husband, they the land, the property that Mary, she confuses me, for Christ's sake. The property that was paid for was in Duval County, and that property had belonged to my stepfather prior to them being married, and so it was paid for, and they had hoped to build out there, but because it was so close to the water, they really permits were hard to get. But anyway, he was the one that had placed the land in what was called a revocable trust. And what I'll look at it, I'll pull it up for you later. I thought I printed it, but I didn't. But anyway, what it is when it's a way for people to place like property, homes, things that like that property. It was paid for. It was free and clear, and it's a way to transfer it over with no problems, and a lot of other things you can put in a revocable trust. But it's an easy transfer once that person dies, because then it goes right into the next person, and you avoid probate. And there's a lot of bonuses to doing it that way. In fact, I believe that's what my husband and I are going to do because it saves a lot of heartache for the next person. So when he died, it was very simple. I took my mother to Duval County Courthouse, and because of the trust, being a revocable trust, it was an easy transfer, and she became the the it became her trust. And let me show you. I have okay. This is this is like the tax. I printed some of the papers that kind of show what happened with the property, but as you can see that's her name, and it says trust. That's what the property was under for forever. I mean, and there was like a few other things on that particular document. Now I don't have that document because the executor of that document was my sister. And honestly, I didn't think that I needed a copy of it, so I didn't even bother. But I can tell you this: there was the revocable trust, which had the land and the contents of what turned into be what was in the condo in it, and there was no no accounts, no banking accounts in there. All right, so that's what it was. And like I said, I wish I could show it to you, but I don't have it. My oldest sister, was the executor of that. Okay, well, here's what went on back then. When my mother passed away, she's lying about me knocking on the door and telling her that. I had no idea what particularly we were going to be dealing with. At that moment, I wanted to let her know that my mother had passed away, and my other sister was there too, and You know, I had to tell the both of them. And after that, I had to go. We had to go. My older sister and I went to the funeral home and started taking care of, that part of it. We had no idea what was around, what my mother had, what she didn't have. I probably knew more about the financial part of it, because whenever she'd come across a problem, I would go down and I'd go to the bank with her or whatever she needed me to do. Now, I want you to understand something. My mother was in her clear and her mind was clear, and it was up until the moment she passed away. There was no signs of. She could tell you what days her bills were due and so forth. She was sharp, and she never missed a beat, and she never had tubes all down her throat and all that stuff that Mary likes to say. And it's just ridiculous. And my mother was smart enough to get through life and take care of Mary, but yet Mary wants to think that my mother could be tricked. No. And it's funny, the living will that she has talked about for so long, it's kind of, my sister and I, the safety deposit box is what she refers to. There was a safety deposit box key that my sister and I came across, and my sister went to the bank because I had come back home. I was back and forth. This was after my mother passed, and the name on there to unlock the box and receive the contents of that box was my sister. So now, I know all of you know that you just don't walk into a bank with a key or without a key and get whatever's in the box just because you want it. That's not how any of that works. There's legal, people pay for those, and it's for security purposes or whatever reason you want to have one. So you have to have documentation with your name on it, and your name has to match the name on there before you receive the contents of that box. So with that being said, my sister had done that. She saved it until I was able to come back. I went down. We went through the box. We discovered several documents, over the years. The will got changed. She actually did have many wills. There was many in there. There was his and hers, and just rewrites and so forth. But the one part that stood the same was that revocable trust. That never changed, and it never changed names, and that's easy enough to look up. I mean, the Duval County Court records will show that it never changed names at not one time. It was Larry's name, and then it was hers. It was never, I don't know why she didn't, but, well, I guess she did in a way. She did have it. It was in the trust. It had my sister as the executor, and my sister and I, everything together, because she wanted to make sure that it was done the way it was supposed to be done. And she just wanted to make sure it was done right. And so I did everything with her, everything. We talked about everything. The first thing we did was went through the enormous amount of papers. Now, the last known date, the last will dated, is the one that would be accurate. Now, the only difference between Florida, I think, and some other states is the fact that in Florida, let's say you have a will, and then you have the revocable trust. Well, in Florida, the revocable trust will trump the will. The revocable trust is the final word. So it doesn't matter how many wills you have. Whatever's in that revocable trust is what stands. That's Florida. That was my reference to, being in Florida. I think revocable trust is the same everywhere. Now, like, there's different types of trust. Like, now, Mary said that it was a conservatory kind of trust. Well, it wasn't never that. A conservatory trust is when you are, someone is, for maybe dementia or, whatever reason, mentally, they cannot take care of themselves. A conservatorship would be a person appointed to do for them, with whatever's in that trust, to take care of them. That was never the case. It was never that kind of trust. And it wasn't a trust fund, as Mary likes to. I think she sees dollars in her mind like that, and There was never no trust fund. I don't know why she makes up the story she does, saying that when she got a certain age, she would receive it. I have no idea where that came from. I can't even find anything that resembles that. So it had to be in something she read, or I don't know. But there was never nothing like that. She was never given everything. But I'm going to tell you this: whatever was in the things that were written in in the trust, um, I can assure you, whether Mary wants to admit it or not, and I can show you. I got some of the dates here. When we okay, when we when my mother passed away, this is November the 15th, 2015. Um, I came home. I live in another state, and I came back home. I went back to Florida to begin this process with my sister in January. Well, in January, um, we made an appointment with a attorney and presented him with everything that we had, and he separated it and told us what, and he was said how lucky, how fortunate we did not have to go do probate because it was all pretty clear there. So what we did, we went to, um, we had to make an appointment with another bank. My mother banked at one bank, but then she had a financial advisor who took care of her retirement and the bulk of the money that she lived on. Uh, that was at a separate bank with an advisor, and there again, you're not going to get that, and you're not going to go in there without your name being on there and without legal documentation of who you are. So when my sister and I went in there, my sister was the only name on there. And I haven't never shared this because I try to protect my sisters as much as I can from ding dong out there. But now I can say it safely without any fear of anything. They're gone. So, she can't hurt them anymore. So when we went in there and we I was with her the whole way. She was the name on there, so she was the one that had to do all the signing. And the sum amount, which I have it here, a folder with all this information, I'll show you. It was a little over $300,000 in that separate account with a beneficiary name on it. So that money was transferred, was wired to my sister's, her personal bank, which is also the bank that Mary talks about the funeral fund. My mother had like $25,000 in that particular bank at my sister's bank for her services because she did not want us to be burdened, or she thought it would be a burden, which it wouldn't have. But that was what she had done for the funeral expenses. I know personally, every penny I was through with her through all of it. Everything was done according to what it was written. Now, I don't know how Mary can even say I know why she says she was cheated. She wanted the cash. Well, the money, my mother was a smart lady. And I think Mary said it herself. My mother was disappointed in the way Mary turned out. It was heartbreaking to my mother to put so much effort into someone like her and to have her turn out the way she did with Robin and Kenneth and all these other people that she drug up in there. And the ironic thing to me is they all were the type of person that wanted to hurt somebody. They wanted to get rid of my mother because Mary had everybody convinced that she was going to be this millionaire. So that was the amount. It was not any more than that because my mother lived off that money for a long time. In fact, I had been down there the year before, and because my mother was concerned about not making it, that she was going to live longer than she had money to live because she spent quite a bit of money a month, and Mary helped her do that. What she would spend monthly was around $10,000. You can't spend $10,000 forever until it runs out when no more money's going in there. I'm going to have to stop this because I hear my husband. So let me get him in here and get me out there, and I will finish this in just a second.